is number 5 is there something brewing in the schools, or is she being overly sensitive? Let's see. Let's take us to Twitter again. And it takes us to this tweet that says today's generation of kids got these teachers quitting due to so many threats. So let me start the video over.
Teachers are quitting the profession. So I'm a teacher and I am leaving work almost 2 hours early because of suffering and being threatened by a student. Let's talk about why so many teachers are quitting the profession. I have never dealt with such unruly, crazy, traumatic experiences in my life. No matter how kind you are, how loving, how intelligent you are as a teacher, how cool you are, how great you dress, you are always going to have students who need to be worked on at home. And because they don't have any work they're getting done at home, they bring the disrespectfulness to you as a teacher. I just had a student threaten me because he was playing inappropriate stuff on his phone. And I tried to take his phone. He wouldn't leave. So I sent him out to the office. He threatened me because I sent him out. And the dean of the school sent him right back to class, to my class. I'm up at the top with no protection. There's no one surrounding. I'm looking in the hallways, no security, no anything. And threatened me not only with himself, but with a parent. So now not only do I need to worry about what you may do to me, I have to worry about walking to my car because I don't know what your parent is capable of in 2023. And this is just one of hundreds of experiences that I have to deal with on a daily basis with these students. They don't do any work. I'm spending all this time lesson planning and doing these fun lessons. They don't do any work. They talk. I've never heard such foul, disgusting language in my life. They do not listen. And on top of that, the district and the school is not going to back you as a teacher. The student will be back in your class within minutes or maybe the next day, but they can't do anything. There's no such thing as expulsion anymore. Kids can't get expelled, and they know that. So they know that they can do whatever they want. There's also no more school police. That does not exist. They do not have school police anymore. So at this point, I am not doing my job. I don't get the chance to teach because I'm too busy having to reprimand students.
All right. I think we get the idea. I'm not going to play it again unless absolutely necessary. But interesting little thing. I don't know if that's just an American thing. It probably is. But I'll be curious to hear what the panelists have to say. Let me start with Carl Hezekiah. What say you to this?
Well, this is an interesting conversation. I'm actually getting my teaching certification right now. So yeah, so this is an interesting conversation. Her idea about there's no school police. I know that there's often school resource officers available. So I know we have that at least here where I'm at in Florida. But yeah, she seems like she's going through a lot, and these kids are different. And it's maybe she has problems with classroom management. I don't want to put it on her. But I do understand that these kids they want to try to get up in your face. I have many family members that are teachers. My cousin, my aunt, they've been teaching for years, and and these children are disrespectful. But many times they're often supported by the parents. We don't have a situation where we have a village anymore. Some people like you don't nobody tell my child nothing. You can't tell my child anything, and we're seeing that more and more. In society. So many times I think that these teachers are overwhelmed. Like you said, she doesn't have the support of the district. And, plus also too, the school shootings are too common. There's too many kids coming up in the school to shoot the place up. So I don't think her fears are completely unfounded. There was recently a 6-year-old who shot a teacher. So, these situations are happening often where these children get violent, you just get beat up on. And these are women we're talking about. They can't stand up to some of these children, as big as they are. So I don't think she's being sensitive at all. I think she has a point to her fear. I think we have to really address these problems, but we also look at the root cause. What is causing the children to behave in this manner? Is it a breakdown in discipline at home? Is it a societal issue? I think we have some real questions about this because I know growing up, I couldn't talk to a teacher any type of way. My parents wouldn't let that go down. And, the consequences for behavior like were very severe. So what's happening in the school and with the parenting at home, I think it's indicative of a larger societal problem that we're facing right now. But no, I don't think she's being oversensitive at all. There was recently a school shooting just a couple of days ago where a transgender person came into school and killed 3 kids and 3 adults. So no, she has the right to feel the way she does. I'm sorry she's experiencing that, so that's just my thoughts on that.
Thank you for that, Carl. Carl said something. He said the kids these days, and in my head I was about to agree, and then I was like, wait a minute. Kids in my day, in my hometown, in government schools, was fighting teachers too. Real talk. I'm not saying it was happening rampantly, but it just happened. I'm sure Buana probably could remember some stories from his time, because he's a few years younger than me, from his time in high school and stuff like that. Speaking of Buana, let's go to Buana next. Buana, what's it?
No, I applaud for what they do. I understand that society has changed a whole lot, and unfortunately, the parents a lot of the parents, and they won't admit this, but a lot of the parents have failed the idea of parenting. They give up on it, and they have left parenting to teachers, and the teachers can only do so much. And some of the children now, society doesn't want to tell the truth. Society wants to uh, propagate the idea of all these guys are innocent little angels, and but for you educating them properly, they'll turn out to be productive citizens. When the reality is, some of these kids are bent. They are bent psychologically. They are damaged, and in society, you will have winners and you will have losers. And among them, unfortunately, there are children who come to school to learn. There are children who come to school to really just buy their time before they go to prison. This is a reality. No one want to admit this. There are some children who are buying their time to go into daddy's little country club. You have a million different stories. There are some children who come to school drunk, high, intoxicated. There are some children who come to school with chemical imbalances, and then we put it all off onto the teacher to so-called educate, quote unquote, for 8 hours a day, which is really babysitting for 8 hours a day, just to get them out of the parents' face while the parents go to their jobs from 9 to 5, because many of them are chemically imbalanced as well. And I would suggest some of these teachers, I don't know what the solution is for teachers, because they are beset, because they have to protect themselves, because they want to go home at the end of the day to really be parents to their children. So what do they do in an environment like that? Do they carry guns privately in their purses just in case some parent decides to take retribution off onto the teacher, or the child does it himself? Nowadays, this is happening. What do? They are really just set out by the government to really try to put a control on what's actually happening, and they really don't have the wherewithal to do that. And the government nor society is really telling the truth. So I would just leave it to the teachers. If it was up to me, I wouldn't advise anyone to be. My lady, and she comes home and tells me different kinds of stories, and I'm like aghast. And the fact parents cloak some of these little criminals is another thing. But I don't know, man. I just have to leave it to the teachers in this argument. They probably have better answers than I could ever have on this particular topic.
Buana, should we institute the death penalty in the schools? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, thank you for that, Buana. Let's go to Jose. Jose, what say you?
Horrible. Horrible, but I don't think it's an American thing. It's again this world lifestyle, or where we are in trends, or in behavior, or whatever. It's last year I had a fight with a child, right? And that it was the same thing, there's no respect, or whatever, even in the streets. So yeah, I was kind of soft with the guy. But when I came home, I noticed that he must have stuck his finger in my eye. So eventually it was still disappointing, but yeah, there's no I mean, I'm curious about their children, right? Where is it going to end? When do we hit rock bottom? And that's I want to end with that question. When do we hit rock bottom?
Have we hit it already? Let's hear from Real Black Gentleman next. Real Black Gentleman, to you.
Well, I mean, I don't want to. It goes back to, like, what I'm saying, like, we are always in on the back foot. Like, yeah, the schools are out of control. You know what I'm saying? It's like, ain't no money being put into the schools, you know what I'm saying, to begin with. Yeah, the whole prisoner pipeline. I mean, I would never advocate putting more policing in schools. I always think that's just a bad, situation. That only brings more attention to the you know what I'm saying? It just brings more attention. I mean, in all honesty. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I would say that ideally homeschooling to a degree would help, but at the same time, practicalities dictate that. So you got to send your kids to school. You got to make sure that they have a curriculum going, that they're going through something, that they're passing, qualifying through whatever. So it's like, I mean, yeah, I feel for if she honestly, if she probably can't do it, it might be better for her not to teach, you know what I'm saying, to a degree, you know what I'm saying? I have to put that out there. But in the meantime, I would definitely say you would need more resources. She should be listened to. She's not, you know what I'm saying, these kids definitely, because of, you know what I'm saying, everything, you know what I'm saying, not enough attention wherever. I mean, sometimes, again, kids, you know what I'm saying, act out, and just they'll be you know what I'm saying, maybe she needs to find a different school or something. I don't know. You got to think laterally, you know what I'm saying, horizontally, you know what I'm saying. Maybe that's not the good school for her. Maybe instead of the school trying to make a solution for her, I don't know. I mean, the school, I never really used school, you know what I'm saying, like that. I never really, like, bugged out my teachers like that, you know what I'm saying. I did what I got into my little troubles or whatnot, but, like, the kids nowadays, they don't, I mean, a lot of it is that they don't play, you know what I'm saying. When I was younger, like, I would, like, I had recess. We had recess, you know what I'm saying? We ran around and stuff, you know what I'm saying? We play games sometimes, you know what I'm saying? In the gym, sometimes it feels raining outside. Like, they don't do that for the young people. They always get people, people talk about education and, like, STEM and types, you know what I'm saying, reading. But sometimes you really got to have, like, you got to have gym. You got to just run around, have recess. You can't have all these standardized tests or garbage. I mean, the whole schooling environment is stuff that, Black people get led by the nose in, you know what I'm saying? There's always these new trends that, you know what I'm saying, Black people are always a step behind in. And it's like we try to catch up to it and not realize that none of this stuff is to our benefit to begin with. I mean, I always think outside the box and always try to, like, don't keep running into a brick wall. I mean, if the kid is wild, I mean, if you want to teach, you know what I'm saying, maybe not at that school. I said, you know what I'm saying, maybe she couldn't, you know what I'm saying, it's like, maybe, you know what I'm saying, like, you got to think about it. Like, if this won't work, maybe something else. Maybe she doesn't have to be that grade of teacher. I don't know. I think that there's definitely ways to think outside of a linear and to think, you know what I'm saying, a little bit more broadly, especially for her. But I mean, if the school is wild, you know what I'm saying, make sure that the kids get attention, you know what I'm saying, make sure that, you know what I'm saying, they get listened to, you know what I'm saying. You don't want to criminalize it. I'm a yield.
I appreciate that, Real Black Gentleman. The chat has had some activities. You guys talk a little bit more in the chat, man. Makes us feel like we actually speaking to good audience here. You want to be in the chat said teachers are getting low pay and high stress. The parents and child are creating a toxic work environment for teachers. Trigavi 262 says never will get anything in their colonial schools and systems. I agree with that 100%. Olagunde says the parenting in our community is horrible. He says a child is a reflection of the parenting or lack thereof. He then says we are at rock bottom. We just don't know it as a whole yet. Yeah, I agree with that. Olagunde says our ancestors had no money, the schools either, but they maximized their experience because we valued education. We don't value education anymore. Yeah, why value education, especially in America? Why value education when there's a shot that you can make the NBA where you don't need education? There's a shot you can make the NFL. There's a shot you could rhyme good and get signed, right? Like, why value education if you're not really interested in taking up positions where education is a requirement? When I talk about the African-centered curriculum, building African-centered curriculum, which I'm still doing behind the scenes, a lot of people didn't really get down with it because, honestly, a lot of people, even in conscious communities, they've internalized the idea that why worry with education? You could learn conscious shit when you're 35, which is what we don't want. We want our children being on some conscious shit. But that's the problem. We're not valuing education. Finally, Tanzan, what say you to everything you heard?
Yeah, firstly, I do feel her. I mean, I do feel her, her difficulty, because when you're trying to teach, especially when you're trying to teach a group of children, you don't have time for every disruption. Even one child being disruptive, throws off the whole class. So it's not that you want, all the children to behave the same, but it's not, when we look at the problem, we're only looking at the symptoms. The larger problem is how school is set up and what it's set up for. And, to be honest, when children ask, oh, why should I be learning this and that and the other, that's a valid question. I think that adults should take that question into serious consideration and try to justify to the children why they're learning what they're learning, because part of the reason why children, are not interested in learning things is firstly because it's boring, it's put in a way that they don't like, they don't understand. And secondly, even the condition of having children just sit for hours and then move from one place to another, and then a very short recess time. We should, as much as we talk about the nature of, men and women and all of this stuff, we should also think about the nature of children. We really don't think of that enough. Children should have a play area, and I think most schools are set up that way. From what I see, they have a big play area, but I don't know if they have enough play time, because part of being a child is playing. Like, I can't remember, was it Benuko or was it Real Black Gentleman who said that? Yeah, so it's not just about, drilling, this knowledge and information into children. You should incorporate that with the nature of children, which is to play, to have fun, to go outside and do things. And when you don't take into account the nature of children, then you force them into this four gray, dreary walls that they have to sit still. And the teachers get the brunt of the children's agitation and frustration, but the children have it the worst because they're forced into this very unnatural condition. And it's the prison to pipeline, I know it's been said over and over again, but it's not just even in the the way it's set up for failure, but also in its design, in the architectural design, the prison and the cafeteria, and to some extent for me the hospital. They all they have this very very unhuman, dry sort of feel about them. Like you're never fully comfortable in those places. You just want to get away. They don't make you feel at home. So they start that process very early. They have the lockers. That's one thing that was funny to me. We the difference between American and Kenyan high schools. We had desks, and in those desks you had everything in your desk. So you had your books and so on in your desks. Whereas because you stayed in the same class the entire lesson, so the teachers would come to the classes. But in the American system, all the students would go to the different teachers. So that was a whole difference, to me. But, so in one case, you had your everything, in close proximity, versus having the lockers outside where you always have to go get them and then encounter all these people at the same time, And then they had those desks, those sparse desks, those small, shortened desks where it's a desk and a chair in one, and it's this metallic and wooden. Oh, I mean, let me not digress. It is difficult for the teachers, but it's also equally difficult for the children. It's not a natural place for them to be. They're not given enough time or enough space to be, children. And unfortunately, the teachers have to pay for it. So yeah, no, she's not overly sensitive at all. It's just a cascading, effects of everything from, the parents also having, because even the parents, we all often blame the parents. Oh, parents, but the parents are actually working. They're not just sitting at home doing nothing while the children are at school. They're also working. They're actually working to make money so the children can go to school. So while yes, the parents should be more involved in the children's lives, it's very true. But one should also acknowledge that the time that parents and children spend together, it's very minimal. Children spend more time with their teachers than they actually do with their parents, and parents spend more time at work than they do with their children. So that's just the way things are arranged. So I think that teachers should be, empowered more. They should be given more. Not just teachers. I think that there should be smaller class sizes, or if there's bigger class sizes, they should have teachers and teacher assistants for children who needs, extra attention. Maybe they can be taken outside or taken to another room. I don't know, but the priority should be also the children, not just, if the teachers are having it this bad, then something is definitely, wrong with the children. Yeah.
I'll say something in defense of school and in defense of education, I guess. People always like to bring up this thing of, well, why did I learn that? How come, I'm not using that Pythagoras? Well, the thing is, education early on has to be broad. It has to be general. You have to get a taste of different subject areas, right? So it has to be that way. I think the problem that we have in particular is we're not taking charge of our education, and so therefore we're not designing education in a way that benefits us. One of the problems with the education system is the education system doesn't build upon, like Tan was talking about, the child's natural ability or natural interest. There's some kids, now you will have to figure out what's that age, right? and then you have to figure out the steps through getting them, getting them to that age, right? Where you can say, okay, at the age of 12, a kid knows enough about what's out there available to them to do.
Child, Coco, child, before that the narrator gets on you.
Yes, forgive me. A child, right? At what age is it that they can kind of figure out naturally that they're into science, or they're into languages, or they're into business or whatever, right? That's what, because we're sitting back doing nothing, that's one of the opportunities we're foregoing. We have the opportunity, and this is the thing that irks me with like the Caribbean and Africa and stuff. You guys don't have to follow the British system. You don't have to follow what America is doing. You could figure out what works for your people best. I remember I had I used to work with this Moroccan guy, a PhD. And basically he was telling me something very interesting about the education system. He was like, by a certain point, like when you go to high school or junior secondary or whatever, when you go to high school, you kind of go into the field that you want to pursue professionally later on. So if you want to be a biologist or engineer, like you go into that, like and if I'm estimating it correctly, it's like around 12, 13, right? They have their way to figure out, okay, that's what you want to do. Here's that path. And you'll take that path right up through high school, college, and into your career. And I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. And we wouldn't lose so many people to nonsense. I've talked about this on the show before. I've noticed that, when you talk about that school to prison pipeline, I've seen that. Not only have I witnessed it at a distance here in America, but I saw that when I was growing up back home. By grade 3, there's some guys, they done with that school thing. Like Buono was saying, it's like a daycare just minding you until it's time to go to jail. And some folks by grade 3, you don't know what path they're on. And then by 6 and 9. So that's the thing that we're losing out, is we're not getting involved in the education and designing it in a way where we don't lose our people. Oh yeah, that's the point I was trying to make just now. Those kids who you could tell what path they're going to be on, one of the things you'll notice about them 9 times out of 10, they are artistic. They're into the arts, music, drawing, painting, whatever. And if you could capture that interest, because folks who have that interest, oftentimes they're not into no mathematics and the syntax of language and all that shit. They just want to draw or whatever, right? Or build or make or create. Like if you could tie into those people younger, you'll save a lot of our folks going down these bad paths, I believe. Anyway, I've talked a lot.
No, because I did want to say something earlier, and it's got to do with this. You know what age that they do the bat mitzvah for the boys?
It's like 15, 16, right? Something
No, 12, 13. Yeah.
13, yeah.
Yeah, so imagine that for them, they become men, or they consider themselves men at such a young age. What age do American boys or men consider themselves men? It's usually like 17, 18, I would say 18 is 18. Official, 21, and so on and so forth. So somebody already has a 6-year, 6 years? Yeah, let's say 12 to 18. Yeah, 6-year head start on you. They've been considering themselves men, and you just got into manhood, like, whoa. But that's the other thing about, African initiation. They're usually done at the similar age, like 12, 13.
Yes, I noticed too. On the Cape Verde Islands, you have a certain group, Rabelados, and there was an Italian made a document about them, and the boy left his house. He had his own cottage, and guess what? His own girl, and she was 1 year older than him, but they were already set to marry at
Mm.
12.
Wow. Wow.
And I've noticed also that that in many other cultures, at 12 you are practically adult and responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. So they start early, even if you're not, obviously, some of them, they let you, take on adult responsibilities, but it's still having that mentality that now you're a man. Now, you put the childish things behind you. Paul is doing it when he's a man, but he's supposed to be doing that as a teenager. This is why puberty, and yes, I give credit to Gaston. Puberty, adolescence, who is a creation, is something that was just given to prolong instead of to initiate the child into adulthood. They wanted to prolong childhood by creating this thing called adolescence, teenagers, teenagehood. That was a time when the child is supposed to be learning how to be an adult, not how to be a rebellious, find my way, whatever, find my, whatever teenagers go through, especially in the American system. For us, it was usually, American, the quintessential American child action, going up into your room and slamming the door on your parents. And then your
Yeah. Oh shit! Slamming the door on your
That's
parents.
that's not a Black American thing. I just let you know because I will take that door off the hinges.
Yeah, white American thing, right?
Well, for us,
Absolutely.
it's the same thing. Well, back then it was the same thing. Everybody was living in peace and harmony, so we didn't know, black and white. Anyway, so for us, that's what we thought. Like being an American child is just slamming the door, when your parents, and we didn't know, like, how can your parents anger you? It's a whole different world. But in any case, you know, um, sorry, I completely forgot my point.
That's all right. Does anyone have any last words on this prompt?
Yeah. Yes. Nobody has criticized her. Of course, she comes from the same education system. Okay, a lot of teachers are stepping out, but why are they stepping out? Were they not prepared?
That's a good point too. Well, something I noticed, Joe said in America that you might know, especially with these white folks, a lot of the teachers now in black neighborhoods, and you guys in the chat, if you're in a different locale than me, you could talk about your situation.
I can guess where this is going, but continues.
Yeah, the kids, their teachers aren't teachers by training. Their teachers are lawyers, especially these white teachers. These folks are lawyers and stuff like that who go to those areas where there's the kind of bad behavior from black kids or whatever, and they go and they get half of their loans and stuff knocked out by teaching in these areas. So this lady, to be fair, I think some black folks benefit from that thing too. She might be one of those folks who might not have ever gone through that type of school environment. She might be from a totally different area and who's just knocking off her loans. Again, I could be wrong. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility as to why she hasn't connected with this type of behavior before.
Okay, and my guess was wrong because I was guessing that you were going to say that in our neighborhoods the teachers are more often, and especially the white ones are more often sick at home paid because yeah, these people, you know what I mean when they say
Yeah,
these people are problematic and etc. And more of that, yeah, they tap out quite early.
absolutely. Anyone else have any last words here? If not, what I will do is I will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 6. But I do want to stretch my legs for a second. So I want to take a station ID break. Shout out to Oni, who showed up in the chat just a little while ago. Shoot the Breeze topic number 6 will be after the station ID break. White folk are creating new jobs for themselves while we collectively don't. Will Black people be left behind economically? Let's do a quick station ID break. We'll be back in 1 minute.